I'm in Union Square and I'm talking with Dakota, and we're talking about gender identity, and Dakota identifies as non-binary, so do you want to explain what that means?
Sure. Well, non-binary, basically my viewpoint and the viewpoint held by a lot of people is that gender is not a binary. Gender is not one or the other. Gender is a universe and we are all stars. There's as many ways to experience and perform and understand your gender as there are people in the world. So I think it's kind of ludicrous at the end of the day to say that, you know, the 8 billion people in the world are only going to be one or the other. You know? It doesn't really work. Binaries don't really work for anybody in anything. So,
exactly.
Trying to have a dichotomy where everything is black or white or masculine or feminine, there's always going to be overlap and they're always intrinsically linked.
There's a spectrum, of course.
Yeah, it's a spectrum, and I don't see things as gendered. Like, I don't see my hair, my makeup, my hair, like, I don't see that as gendered. I just see it as it's an expression of the fullness of my identity.
Right.
So,
and I guess it's society that determines whether something is male or female. Or,
well, the thing is that, like, we always, in the community that I run in, we always call it DMAB or DFAB, designated female or designated male at birth, because the thing is that gender is something that none of us chose. None of us, you know, we were babies and somebody decided, well, you have this genitalia or you have this genitalia, so now you're this. And I don't really think that your genitalia or your physicality should be informing anything.
Right.
So, at the end of the day, I think that's where a lot of it comes from, and you know, it's definitely, we're taught that there's a default for human beings. We're taught that the default human being is white. We're taught that the default human being is male. We're taught that the default human being is heterosexual. We're taught that the default human being is cisgender, meaning not transgender. You know, and that creates a lot of issues, because if you're not that, you're now the exception to the rule, and space has to be made for you. And we're not great at making space for other people in our society.
And people who have power don't usually like to give it up.
No, they don't. You know, they really don't. And so, you know, a lot of conversations I have with people stem from the fact that we all have privilege over someone else. I have privilege because I'm white. You know, you have privilege because you're cisgender. You know, we all have, people have privilege that are male. You know, it just is what it is. So as long as you're cognizant of that and you're actively trying to, you know, make room for other people, that's important. Like I always say, like, making room for others does not make less space for yourself.
Exactly.
And we have that idea, and it's damaging.
Do you think New York is better able to make space for people in this regard?
No.
In terms of diversity? Not necessarily.
No, New York is light years behind a lot of other places in the world, even a lot of other American cities. New York is very traditional. New York has a lot of really conservative ideas, and a lot of it is the gentrification and the overdevelopment of the city, you know? New York 20 years ago, absolutely. New York 40 years ago, absolutely. You know, it was a lot more punk rock, it was a lot more grassroots, it was a lot more, you know, art by the people for the people, and now it's just, you know, luxury high-rises and yuppies with Starbucks cups.
Where do you think, what other cities in the USA do you think are ahead of New York in this regard? In terms of
Portland, Seattle, San Francisco, I mean, there's a lot of other, it's mostly West Coast, but
California.
There's also a lot of southern places that are really on it, like Houston and Austin, and Nashville has a really, really thriving queer community, and so, you know, you have to kind of find it where it's at, you know? But I think that a lot of times people glorify New York based on its legacy, and that legacy is not alive today.
It's not necessarily
not here,
living it up to it.
Yeah, because real artists, real people who create art like us, we can't afford to live here anymore. You know, we're literally talking about how deep in Brooklyn we're going to live because we can't afford to live in the city anymore, and it's exhausting. You know, I'm living in East Harlem where it's still 1983 in a bad way, and it just doesn't really work. You know, it's like, how are you supposed to really thrive or build a life for yourself here, or, you know, actually go anywhere? You know, the thing about New York is you spend all your money getting here and then you can't get out. You know,
you're trapped. You're trapped.
Yeah. So, you know, I'm just looking forward to moving to Brooklyn and, like, you know, just being able to have a backyard and garden and possibly get onto my rooftop.
More of a normal life.
And, you know, those are things that I care about.
I hear you. Now, the last question is, what's a piece of advice you would give to people about, you know, being who they really are, you know, being themselves?
Well, you know, at the end of the day, what you allow is what will continue. Don't allow people to mistreat you. There are always going to be, you know, circumstances that you're in that are not okay. try to get yourself out of them the hardest that you can. Don't be afraid to ask for help, and make sure that you never compare your path to other people.
Right.
If we were all supposed to live up to somebody else's expectation, we would all be the same person, you know?
Right.
If you're around people who are not actively supporting you and really helping to help you reinforce the foundation of your life and live to your fullest capacity, then those are people that you don't need to be around, you know? Stop being afraid to be alone. Sometimes it's the best thing that you can possibly do, and you can really choose who you want in your life, you know? When you let yourself be a victim of circumstances, then you have no choice but to react to what's around you, as opposed to having, you know, feet on solid ground and being able to respond the way that you feel is necessary for situations, you know?
Right.
Nobody likes to be under the gun. Don't put yourself there, you know? And not to victim shame, obviously. We're not saying that, like, if there's an issue, obviously reach out for help. But
Right. I hear you. No, that's very good. Very good idea.
I mean, just deprogram yourself. Deprogram yourself, denormalize your thoughts. Stop thinking that people of color are other. Stop thinking that women are other. Stop thinking that people who are trans are other. People of lower socioeconomic statuses, people who are, you know, poor, people who are homeless, these people deserve just as much respect as you do. So stop trying to other people and identify them by this two-dimensional, monolithic characteristic that is so different than you. Have conversations with other people as a human. That will get you much farther in life.
Excellent. Good to talk with you.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you for asking.
Thank you.
Yeah.